In the US, a partial shutdown of the federal government looks set to drag through Christmas. And locally, a call on the government to review its welfare payments to the needy. The US federal government is expected to remain partially closed past Christmas Day. That's because Democrats and Republicans cannot agree on a spending plan, which includes funding for a border wall. Peter Koveos has details.
The U.S. Congress returned to work for a rare Saturday sitting. A deadline of Friday midnight came and went without a resolution. Lawmakers were unable to reach an agreement on a spending plan. The biggest divide was President Trump's proposed border wall. The House passed a spending bill earlier in the week, but it did not include funding for the wall. Following a backlash from conservatives, Trump demanded $5 billion in financing be added at the last minute for the barrier. That plan needed Senate approval to pass, but did not get the required votes. Both sides are now blaming each other for the stalemate.
So one would think that securing our homeland, controlling our borders, and protecting the American people would be bipartisan priorities. Uncontroversial, common sense, bipartisan priorities, a core duty of any nation's government.
At midnight last night, roughly 25% of the government shut down because of one person and one person alone, President Trump. We arrived at this moment because President Trump has been on a destructive 2-week temper tantrum, demanding the American taxpayer pony up for an expensive and ineffective border wall that the president promised Mexico would pay for.
Trump canceled his Florida getaway to Mar-a-Lago and tweeted that he is busy working at the White House. But thousands of federal employees won't be working because of the shutdown. Federal parks will close. Some 380,000 will be furloughed, meaning they are put on temporary leave. About 400,000 federal essential employees, like law enforcement and border agents, will have to keep working. This is the third government shutdown under Trump's administration. Peter Koveos, TVB News.
Another high-profile U.S. government official is leaving the Trump administration over the president's move to pull American troops out of Syria. Brent McGurk has served as the U.S. envoy for the American-led coalition battling the Islamic State group since 2015. In an email to his staff, McGurk voiced his disagreement with the planned withdrawal. His resignation will take effect at the end of the year. McGurk's departure comes on the heels of Defense Secretary Jim Mattis quitting over Trump's decision to withdraw troops from Syria. On Wednesday, Trump announced his administration would pull roughly 2,000 U.S. soldiers out of the conflict zone. The decision has been sharply criticized for abandoning America's Kurdish allies, who may well face a Turkish assault once U.S. troops leave Syria. A group of Russian fighter jets landed in Crimea Saturday amid tensions with Ukraine. More than a dozen Su-27 and Su-30 Russian fighter jets flew into the airbase. The airfield is in a region that was once part of Ukraine until Crimea was annexed by Russia in 2014. Tensions between Moscow and Kiev have remained high since Russia seized 3 Ukrainian Navy ships and their crews about a month ago. Both Moscow and Kiev have blamed each other for that incident.
London's Gatwick Airport is struggling with a backlog of people whose flights were delayed or cancelled because drones flying over the airfield. Harried travelers tried to make good on Christmas plans upended by 3 days of extended shutdowns caused by the drones. More than 100,000 people had their travel plans disrupted during one of the busiest travel times of the year. In the nearby town of Crawley, police searched a vehicle of 2 people detained in connection with the drone intrusions. A 47-year-old man and a 54-year-old woman were arrested on suspicion of disrupting civil aviation in a way likely to endanger people. There have been no new drone disruptions since the arrests. Paddy Ashdown, former leader of the British political party Liberal Democrats, has died after a short bout with bladder cancer. He was 77. Popular articulate Ashdown was a prominent figure in Britain and continental Europe for decades. Known for his outspoken nature and wit, he was a former Royal Marine Commando that helped build the Liberal Democrats into a force to be dealt with in Parliament. In 1997, the party won 46 seats, its best result in 7 decades. Ashdown received a knighthood and was a member of the House of Lords, but he was the kind of person that almost everyone called Paddy.
And back locally, as the number of Hong Kongers living below the official poverty line had hit a record high last year since 2009, a group today urged the government to review its financial assistance for poor families. Christy Leung reports it was back in 1996 that such payments were last revised.
What these low-income families wish for Christmas is more financial assistance from the government. This teenage girl enjoyed playing the piano and dancing, but stopped taking classes as her family couldn't afford it. The Society for Community Organization, or SOCO, said more than 180,000 children in Hong Kong live in poverty. It said despite the city's economic growth, the number of Hong Kongers living below the official poverty line had reached a record high since 2009, rising to more than 1.3 million. To assist the underprivileged, SOCO urged the governments to review the comprehensive social security assistance payments, which haven't been revised for a long time.
Since 1996, the government reviewed the CCC amount and the payment. It did not have any review after 22 years. Nowadays, the living standard and the cost is very different from the past.
The group also called on the government to set up a new fund of $10 billion for speeding up transitional housing projects for the needy. While attending a sports event this morning, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the current fiscal year will end up with a surplus. Last year, a surplus of $150 billion was also recorded. He wrote on his weekly blog that he would try his best to strike a balance between different public demands. That includes building more care homes for the elderly, public hospitals and subsidized flats. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Still ahead on tonight's news. Protests against the Department of Justice's decision over the UGL payment controversy. African swine fever spreads to Guangzhou. And in Japan, Emperor Akihito marks his last birthday on the throne.
每位媽媽都想將寶寶天生最好嘅一面盡情發揮。美贊臣 Infinitus 原生營養組合，20倍乳鐵蛋白，支持寶寶腸道健康及免疫力。Infinitus 原生營養，啟發天生潛能。
Welcome back to TVB News. Pan-Democrats today staged a protest against a decision by the Department of Justice not to prosecute former Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying over the UGL payment controversy. Haley Joe reports.
Before demonstrators set off from Chater Garden on their march to Justice Place in Central, they tossed a giant ball around. That's pasted with a missing person note with Secretary for Justice Teresa Cheng's face on it. Protesters demand that Cheng come forward to explain her department's decision. That's after the Department of Justice ended its investigation into the $50 million Leung Chun-ying received from UGL. The department said there was insufficient evidence to support a reasonable prospect of conviction against Leung for any criminal offense.
They should explain why they did not get independent consultant about this case. Yeah, I think she should step down.
Protesters also mocked Cheng, who's currently on leave. This prop of a diver is their way of making fun of the official swimming away from addressing the issue to the public.
Our rule of law is breaking down now. If we don't protect anymore, then our Hong Kong will become a corruption city.
The basic law requires the chief executive to declare his or her assets. That's why former CE Long Chun-ning caused an uproar with payments he received but didn't disclose. Long had been a director of UK real estate company DTZ since 2006. He resigned in 2011 to run for the city's top job. The following month, Australian firm UGL bought DTZ and subsequently paid Long a total of $50 million after he took office as chief executive of the Hong Kong SAR. The money was for Long not joining UGL's competitors within 2 years. Long said there was no conflict of interest, but the Democratic Party is gearing up for a judicial review.
The Secretary does not follow the guideline of the departments to hire external independent legal advisors to seek legal advice, which have already damaged the public confidence in the rule of law and the clean government. We hope the Secretary could explain her decision to the general public and in the Legislative Council meeting.
Protesters stuck crosses on a photo of Teresa Cheng outside our office to express their objection to the DOJ's decision. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
The government is looking into a voluntary accreditation scheme for the city's care homes to improve service quality. Here's Sharon Tang.
In Hong Kong, the demand for elderly care homes remains high because of an aging population. And in recent years, there were cases in which services provided by the care homes were far from desirable. Watchdogs and reports have said that's mainly due to the lack of a service quality standard. One of the cases that received widespread attention involved Cambridge Nursing Home in Tai Po. Elderly residents there were spotted being left naked in open space for more than an hour as they waited to take a shower. Speaking to TVB News, Secretary for Labour and Welfare Lord Chi Kwong says the government is exploring ways to raise the staff-to-resident ratio for care homes, and results are expected in the middle of next year. The government will also roll out a voluntary accreditation scheme for residential care homes in 3 months' time.
Accreditation requires the examination of the policy, procedures, and processes that services are being delivered. Residential care service provider, they would have to provide the human resource to receive the training and do the process review, etc.
Apart from setting up a service quality standard, there's also the need to ensure an adequate supply of manpower for the city's care homes. Law stressed that one of the pressing issues that require attention is about the aging workers in local care homes.
Sooner or later, we have to increase the importation of labor. For those who are working in our residential homes, nearly like 60% are 50 years or older. So very soon they will be retiring. But there are not very many young people.
Law says apart from better salaries, shorter working hours could hopefully attract more young people to join the industry. He added that an improved career path where caregivers can be promoted to nurses, occupational therapists, and other health professionals could also help. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
And the exhibition in Kwun Tong today showcased furniture that may not be fancy looking, but it was custom made under a tight budget for subdivided flats. Caleb Bloom explains.
A rather unusual outdoor furniture showroom by the Kwun Tong Promenade. These are replicas of custom-made furniture designed for subdivided flats of around 100 square feet in area. Through the redesign program, professional designers and students worked with a budget of $5,000 per flat.
You can see here, it's a storage box, and the top of the box you can put it out. It's a foldable table, you can put it on the bed. In my case, the double bed didn't have the ladder, so we designed this ladder cabinets. So you can see here is some storage box. You can slide them easily to find the goods.
This small cabinet also doubles as a desk.
First of all, you can see that there is a storage area at the bottom. When you try to pull this table out, well, together with the chair, it becomes working areas for the child.
For those who wish to enjoy an extra bit of comfort in their homes, this shelf actually includes 2 pull-out sofa seats and a table, a feature not commonly found in subdivided flats. So far, 32 families referred by non-government organizations have received furniture for free. Yet the Hong Kong Council of Social Service, which leads the program, says this is not the best way to help the underprivileged.
We are trying to design some tiny furniture to custom or to adapt it to the environment. But I think in the long run, we shouldn't just ask these people to adapt to the environment. We should be thinking about whether we should, improve the living condition as a whole.
Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Guangzhou reported its first case of African swine fever. More pigs in southern China have now been infected, following an outbreak in Zhuhai earlier this week. Of 30 infected pigs at this farm in Huangpu district, 9 died from the contagious disease. Authorities have started calling at the site that houses 6,000 pigs. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs mentioned this latest case on its website today after confirming it last night. Since August, more than 20 provinces on the mainland have reported cases of African swine fever, a disease that's believed to only infect pigs. Overseas again, Japan's Emperor Akihito celebrated his 85th birthday today, his last before his upcoming abdication. The monarch appeared on the balcony of the Imperial Palace along with Empress Michiko and eldest son Naruhito. Akihito says he feels relieved that his reign is coming to an end without having seen his country at war. His 30-year reign is the only era in Japan's modern history without war. Akihito is set to abdicate on April 30th. He'll be succeeded by Crown Prince Naruhito. And that's the news.